Okay, and we are live. Hello, welcome to Loose Canon. Today we are. I need to adjust my chair. Today we are talking about the lore book Empress. It came out in Season of the Chosen, and we're talking about it today because it's kind of relevant. How when is it? When is it? So next week is actually the start of the new season. We still know nothing about the start of the new season. August 24th. And isn't that what
It's
they
a
did with
grand
Arrivals?
mystery. Yeah, they did.
They were
They
like,
kind of
yeah,
kept it
complete
quiet,
mystery.
and
They
then
they dropped Beyond Light information and they didn't
yep.
drop Arrivals information. So they're doing that scheme again. Um which is cool, I'm into that. I'm into going into something blind, not knowing what to expect. But so personally, I don't know if you're really in the same camp as me, but I think that we're going to be seeing some like Xivu information, specifically the Xivu Savathun kind of headbutting that they've been doing since Forsaken. So that's why we chose to do this book, because it kind of shows how they're both kind of playing each other, playing off each other at least.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I get it.
Because that was a trip back in Forsaken. Remember those in the Dreaming City? There would be hive that were attributed to Xivu Arath, and it's like the whole time you were like, "This is Savathun's deal. Why is Xivu here?" And everyone's like, "What's going on? Like, what's happening?" And I think there was a line from Toland who said that they were actually fighting each other for the Dreaming City, like they both wanted it and only one could have it, type of deal.
Yeah, that's
So
a little crazy. It's like a little bit of a sibling rivalry there.
yeah. I mean, that's bound to happen.
Well,
That's why way back in the books of Sorrow, they were like, we need to leave. We can't be hanging out together because we're just fighting over tithe. Like they are so big, they can't. They there's only enough room for one of them in the soul system,
right.
and I think they're gonna come to each other. And I personally, I think Witch Queen is gonna be a big switcheroo, and Savathun's gonna peg us up against Xivu Arath, and this season is going to kind of like set the groundwork for pushing Xivu into our focus, and then she's gonna sidestep out of it, and it's just gonna be us versus Xivu. I probably
I
said that
like it.
before. All right. So how was your week's been?
Um, mainly work.
Yeah, same. I've been
Yeah,
crazy busy myself.
I get to go to work, and then work some more, and
Mm-hmm.
then eat a work sandwich for lunch,
Mm-hmm.
and then come home and drink some work coffee, and then chill out and shoot aliens, and
Yeah.
then go to sleep and dream about work.
Mm-hmm. Uh,
What
I
about
actually
you?
I actually haven't played it. Because I've kind of just been, I don't want to say like on a hiatus with Destiny, but it's just like I feel like I've experienced the whole of the season, even though the epilogue and everything. I've been like really on top of what's been happening, especially from the lore sense. So I know about epilogue and how that happened. Um,
Right.
and so that happened this week, last week, effectively. And so it's pretty safe to talk about it now. And, Lakshmi opened a portal in the Batsa ruins, allowing the Vex in, which seems kind of crazy because it's like, why would you do that?
Yeah. So it's crazy. It's even more crazy because the way they doled out that information, like it
Yeah,
wasn't all just in game. We got that.
yeah.
What is it called? The lore that's outside of the game, where they do the little. What is it called?
Oh, the web lures?
There you go. Web lores.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I couldn't think of that.
Well, they called them web lures, and then they called them something else. I
So we're
forgot what
getting
else they
web
called them.
lore. We're getting web lore that's fed to it. That's technically not like in the game or accessible through
Mm-hmm.
any game means. And so you've got to take this like holistic approach to how the lore is being rolled out to you, because if you're getting these outside vignettes that are telling a
Mm-hmm.
story, but then you're getting things that are happening in the game or in the, the lore of Destiny or in the story of Destiny. Um, you got to wonder why they chose to isolate certain things for
Hmm.
the web lore and then why things are in the game. And I chalk it up to some of it being mainly because the way the game releases content, they can't be in control of certain things, obviously,
Hmm.
because they call them data miners where they're not. They're just reading stuff before everyone else got to read it. And then you're you're seeing a lot of stuff that's just made available to people all at once,
Hmm.
and it's a bunch of people experiencing things for the first time and just sharing that, or rereading things that happen with new information that
Yeah.
help put those old things into context. And then so we say lot of stuff like spoilery things that we don't want to talk about, and we do hold back on those particular pieces of content because you want to give people a respectable amount of time to experience it for themselves. I
Hmm.
say maybe like a week or a week and a half is always good.
Yeah.
Just like movies, right?
Yeah.
You
You
don't
don't
want
want
to.
to be the guy leaving the
Yeah,
movie telling people
yeah,
what happened.
that's just crap. And so it's okay to play around with things, and like if you know, and you can
Yeah.
say certain things out on the web, and people know what you're talking about, and that's not a spoiler. That's just like an inside joke, right?
Hmm.
Um, but so, like I said, half of the web lore decision is probably because of that. And so, when you think about the words that are written out in those paragraphs on the web lore that give this full, I mean, a lot of times the web lores are full of descriptive, contextualized, um, just this like elaborate happening or event,
Hmm.
or just trying to give you like some meat and potatoes to what's happening in the game, and they're very fleshed out typically. So the stuff we got that pertained to Osiris and Sagira
Hmm.
became hella relevant all of a sudden,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Like more and more that story, it's like, okay, well, what weren't we told? Like, what happened that we didn't
Yeah,
understand?
yeah. And so when you're experiencing things in the game and you're watching characters, NPCs talk to one another, and you're like, why does this sound weird? Or what is this? What is happening? As a player, I can only imagine if you don't read any of the lore, as a player, I can imagine you have like a very streamlined idea of what's going on in the game. And outside of that, it's pretty, it's kind of like this river that you're following and it
Hmm.
gets you to where you're going. But it's funny because you're missing all of these branches that are connecting together as you're going down this river, and you're just if you just look around, you'll see there's a bunch of other rivers feeding to the one you're on.
Yeah.
And that Osiris and Sabathun River has been there for a long time. I mean, Osiris has been there since D1. We just didn't ever
Yeah. Because
interact with
like, I don't think in those web lores that you're talking about, Immolent part 1 and 2,
yeah,
if those hadn't happened, I don't think everything that everyone's thinking about Osiris right now could make sense. It'd be like such a
yeah,
switch for Osiris to be how he is all of
yeah,
a sudden.
it would. Yeah, and I guess that, and maybe that's okay, because even if you don't know that knowledge, and you're somebody experiencing the game in a lighter way,
Hmm.
I say lighter or heavier being people that are just immersed in the lore, and then lighter are people like that are just kind of absorbing the story as they play.
Hmm.
If you're involved with the story in a lighter way, maybe that's okay because you can recognize when something sounds off or seems weird, right?
Yeah.
But the cool thing about that is I've noticed a lot of people since this last event that we had with Epilogue and Lakshmi dying. I've noticed a lot of people kind of wake up to the fact that, hey, I'm a little bit hungry now and I need to understand why this is the way it is. And so they're
Hmm.
rereading lore or they're reading lore for the first time.
Hmm. I
And
feel
so
like
it's
sorry.
no, that's it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people are getting engaged in the story, and I've noticed a lot of new people showing up, and it's
Hmm.
great.
I feel like Bungie has like really mastered the seasonal storytelling model, and like they've done such a good job of it that now I think there's an answer. Matt said this, Mylan Games said this on DCP a week or so ago, where they asked him like, how would you suggest someone get into the lore? And that's a question that gets harder and harder to answer as the years go on and we get
Yeah,
more and more and more. But he was like, I think you should just read the lore that's currently happening. And it's like, yeah, that's all it takes, because you get that itch, and that's what these seasons are doing, because they're like, oh my god, what's going on with Osiris? I thought he was like a super like good guy. What did I miss? Like
right.
what's that subtext that I'm not getting anymore? And it's you go looking for more, and then when you go looking for more, you find other things. Like you go diving into Osiris, and then you start learning about, I'm not really sure what Osiris can branch off into. Actually, he's pretty
Everything.
self-contained.
I mean, he's technically connected to every single thing that happened in Destiny. It's just like the stories that are about him are pretty much like self-contained. Like it's a bubble of Osiris when you read his stories. But
Yeah,
when you realize that Osiris is in and around and all over everything that's ever happened, that
yeah,
that kind of is like what. See,
yeah.
what's funny to me about the character of Osiris is if you go back to D1 and you think, okay, Tolan, Osiris, these ominous characters that were at the at like the background of the lore,
Hmm.
and you always wondered about them, right? And it kind of created this like hunger of knowledge. We talk about it all the time. Hunger of knowledge, ayat. So you talk about these hungers of knowledge that we all have. Why? It's this constant question. Why?
Hmm.
And then you see particular pieces of the story happen, and then a name drop. There's so many
Hmm.
times when Osiris and Tolan's names were dropped. I mean, we all got broken toes at this point. Just as you're playing the game, you're like, what does Osiris have to do with this? And his name is right here in front of you. For what? You know?
Yeah,
So it makes you question, it makes you wonder, where are they going with this? And
yeah. I
are we
remember
having
in
anything?
early D1, everyone thought Osiris was fully focused on the Vex because he's extremely focused on the Vex. He sees them as like the great threat, and I think I think it might actually be the first time Osiris was even mentioned in Destiny 1 was by Rahul when he said uh Oryx, what did he say? He mentioned Oryx and something about repeating 3 times. This is like idle dialogue, repeating 3 times, and then at the end of his statement, he's like Osiris. And so it's like one of those first like hints that it's like
Yeah,
Osiris is more than just the Vex. Like Toland is absolutely like almost exclusively focused on the Hive, but both of them
yeah,
are focused on the darkness. And like that was their kind of like defining factor, that like Toland, the darkness that trickles down to the Vex, and Osiris, the darkness, or the Hive, and then Osiris, the darkness, it trickles down to the Hive, but it also deviates to the Vex, which we now know that we never really knew before. We always kind of like the Vex are kind of their own deal, except for the Black Garden Vex. But now it's like, in the Garden of Salvation raid, GOS raid. I always call it GOS, so I don't remember if it's Salvation or something else.
it's
Uh,
salvation. Yeah.
there's the pyramid in the garden. It's there buried. They have
Uh-huh.
the darkness statue in that pyramid. They are clearly closely tied to the darkness in some fashion.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, now we know that exos were created out of that
Yeah. And the
darkness.
Exos were used with stasis, created with stasis and Vex, which is like
Yeah,
really double
yeah,
dipping into the night.
uh-huh.
And speaking of Osiris, there was that entry Osiris from Destiny 1 where I think it was Lysander who said this. He was spreading a rumor that Sagira was a faulty ghost because she resurrected
Yeah,
Osiris as a human despite having evidence that he was an exo,
yeah,
which is crazy to think about because like I think that could be possible. Like if they really wanted to go down that line and
That's
explain
so
how that
funny you
works.
brought that up because I just read that like
Really?
maybe 2 days ago. Yeah, I was just reading that because I was thinking about the fall of the factions and how
Hmm.
they're pretty much.
Yeah,
I
they're
mean, they're
gone.
not
Do you
done.
think Dead
Yeah,
Orbit
I
took
mean,
its fleet? Do you think they're like out exploring the world now? Like, is humanity fucked when the time comes?
I don't know.
Should have
So
listened.
Lakshmi's dead, but at the end of that particular epilogue, you
Mm,
get to hear them say because they want to, they want to incorporate that not all FWC was bad. It was just the people that kind of believe what Lakshmi was saying, right?
yeah, I think it
Or
was
not.
Navarro who was like, "You need to chill the fuck out." Like,
There you go. Yeah, and so they even put it in the dialogue in the game. So like they're like, yeah, Ikora is talking about Lakshmi, and she's saying, yeah, even a lot of the FWC members were seeing her as whatever, just crazy or whatever. Just
radical. Yeah.
yeah, there you go, radical. And so it's kind of a way to say, okay, sometimes you got crazy people running your stuff, and you can't do anything about it until But that doesn't necessarily make you a bad person.
Yeah.
um, it just means that you had someone bad in your group. And so anyway, bad, good, whatever. Everyone's kind of oscillating between the two, regardless. I'm sure,
Hmm.
most of the humans in real life are probably doing the same thing. I think there's just bad situations, and it's if you've got bad situations and you've got opportunities for more bad stuff to happen and create people having a tendency to do bad things, it's going to happen, right? So
Hmm.
Lakshmi obviously happened because there was this perfect opportunity, and everybody in the game is oscillating between the two, which is good or bad, right? And
Yeah.
even Zavala. I mean, Zavala's had some really dark moments.
Hmm.
Um, so, in a nutshell, uh, I was thinking about the factions and how they're pretty much gone at this moment, and it made me think about Lysander. And so I went back and I was rereading that, and I was just searching Lysander to read everything Lysander had to do. And so it kind of made me think of like context wise when what you just said when Lysander was talking about Osiris and Sagira and and his ghost. At the time
Hmm.
when I first read that, I just thought, oh, that's just kind of like him roasting Osiris for being, just like he just wants to be like Lysander obviously has this disdain for the other factions because they kicked him out because New Monarchy basically banished him to the winds, right?
Hmm.
And so it kind of makes you wonder, what did Lysander know?
Yeah, like
So
I wonder if he actually found evidence of Osiris being an exo, because that would be kind
because
of crazy.
because remember when there was the consensus meeting in the lore and how they were trying to decide who is going to be accepted in next.
Yeah.
And they knew FWC was kind of radical already,
Mhm.
but they brought him in. Lysander and his Concordat were out, but they got to bring in somebody, and so FWC was the most likely candidate. But
Mhm.
everybody knew that they had this tendency to be kind of radical,
Yeah.
as you put it.
Okay. Well, so speaking of Vex in the epilogue mission, and let's see, I think I'm gonna do this right. Okay. Yeah. So speaking of Vex in the epilogue mission, we found a friendly harpy apparently speaking binary. So I'm sure you've heard about this, right?
Yeah.
And so I just pulled this up off of Google. You can notice that it's stationed at this like dual monitor setup thing,
Uh-huh.
which is almost identical to Asher. I think the only thing it's missing is his book. And so Asher,
Well,
as
it's
last
even
we
got like the little laptop screen
yeah,
thingy.
yeah, it's still got the
Yeah.
laptop screen. But
Uh-huh.
so the last time we saw Asher, he was heading into the Pyramidion because he was not going to let the darkness access Vex secrets. And he was like, I'm not letting that happen. And then Io became an anomaly, assumably an anomaly just like Mars did, as we know Mars did, and Titan. And so now we have the friendly harpy, who's identified with a blue eye. And this isn't even the first time we've seen a friendly harpy. The first time we saw it was in D2 Vanilla, where it was the captain of the Exodus Black
Yeah.
mind scanned, loaded into a harpy. And then in Beyond Light, we saw another harpy on Europa. So I don't think there's any connection between Captain from Exodus Black and the more recent harpies, but people are saying that this harpy in the city is Asher because the binary that it's beeping out says assistant, which Asher constantly calls us.
Right. Yeah. Well, and here's what's even funnier about that is just like you said. So when Asher was a Jensum scribe, Asher had lost his fire team. Asher was infected by the Vex when he lost his arm, and the
Mm-hmm.
Vex infection was taking over Asher's body and converting him slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Eris has a good line in the Grimoire where she's talking to Asher on his medical
Mm-hmm.
bed, and she is describing what he looks like. This is well before any of the happenings happened, and she's noticing the ghost has a red eye and just blinking at her,
Mm-hmm.
and that his arm has been replaced with a Vex arm, which
Mm-hmm.
is like a goblin arm, basically. And so she knows that he's ultimately doomed at that time. And then the whole time Asher is involved with us, he is calling us assistant,
Mm-hmm.
and he's always called anybody who's ever been a part of his research
Yeah.
um, assistant. And so we know from throughout the story with Asher is that he had this hellbent vengeance with the Pyramidian boss. What was his name?
Brachyon Genesis Mind.
There you go. You kind of have to say it in his voice because every time you hear Brachyon Genesis Mind, that's like you're playing the game, and so it like immediately comes up in your brain. But so there was the whole funny bit about the lake. There's no lake,
Yeah.
right?
But then
Um,
Asher found the lake when he went in.
Boom, there you go. So like he sees the lake. So this lake and the Vex and the thing all being tied to his convergence into the Vex. What do you
Mm-hmm.
call it? I don't know, like the stream of network and minds that are all connected. So do you think, because this is the question, do you think that Asher is a part of the network and he back channeled a way to talk to us through a harpy mind, or do you think that he was physically turned into this harpy?
I think the first option. I think Asher is still currently himself, or if he is anything, he is more Vex than and less awoken, but he's not harp like he doesn't turn into a harpy. He was already
Right.
turning into like a goblin, or in
Goblin,
my
right.
opinion, he was turning into Brachyon. And
Yeah.
so
So
you
so
don't turn
it's
into a harpy.
yeah. So what I was gonna say is I believe the first one too. And here's kind of why. Because when Tolan fell to the hive,
Mm-hmm.
the thing that kept him from being automatically absorbed to the hive and just being kind of just nothingness
Mm-hmm.
was his light, right? The
Mm.
light is the light is able to be contained and destroyed, but in certain instances, the light is so strong that it almost holds the essence of that person in a stasis. It almost holds the essence of that person in a way that they're just kind of trapped. They're kind of trapped between existence and not existing, right?
Okay.
So Tolan has talked to us several times through those little floaty bits on the moon
Mm-hmm.
and other places too.
Yeah, in the Dreaming City
Yeah.
and
Remember when hard
on
remember when
the Dreadnought.
yeah. Yeah. And so in the Vex, they have a network of communication where they can just talk digitally or however it happens, the stream of consciousness. So wouldn't you find Asher's knowledge of the Vex useful in this instance to where he could just basically say, you know what? I'm going to try to manipulate a message out to everybody. I
Yeah, I
mean,
think so.
yeah. So it kind of happened with uh, the what was his name? The Hardy, the ship guy from Nessus that died with that friendly harpy that you brought up. What was his name?
I just know him as the
The
captain. I don't remember
captain.
his name.
Captain. Okay, so the captain ghost. That was very much a message
Hmm.
contained within the harpy. How do you think that that message was able to cut through?
I don't know.
Yeah. So you've got to wonder if there's this like back channel that is manipulate that you can manipulate within the Vex network,
Hmm.
right? And so the reason I'm bringing all of this up is because we have Savathun, who is known for being able to manipulate the Vex network with Kuria.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mhm. So somewhere within the light and the dark is this ability to, um, like, I don't know. There's just this ability within the light and the dark that can somehow go outside, material means. I think it's a good road for them to go down, lore wise, and try to explain
Hmm.
eventually. But I'm definitely aware of something happening. I
Yeah.
just can't put my finger on it. It's like it's okay to say you don't know because I don't know, right? I don't know what it means, but
Hmm.
it makes me hunger for that. It makes me hunger for that explanation, and I think that they could specifically do something there because why else? Why else would it be so advantageous for the praxics to sacrifice themselves whenever they're up against the wall, right?
Hmm.
Because when they die or they sacrifice themselves, or they conflagrate this like just way of just destroying themselves, but everything around them goes with it. But
Hmm.
then they're also able to get that message back to you in a way.
Yeah.
um so there's got to be something there. There's got to be something there within the light and the dark, sacrifice and taking.
Yeah. Well, then, we also, continuing on this Asher thing, we have a lore card that kind of talks about Asher. Do you want to get into that?
Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. That ties in really nicely. Um so it's a short lore card. It's really short because I'm not going to go into the insane amounts of techno garble there are, which I read it all because that's how I am. I'm insane when it comes to this stuff. But in a nutshell, there's a sniper that we get that has to do with Asher, and it's called Silicon Neuroma. Um, so that's not really something that exists in real life, like the two words together.
Hmm.
But the flavor text on the sniper rifle, which is a pretty good sniper rifle, by the way, it says, and it's a quote from Asher, it says, "My future is concurrently irreversible and unknowable. Before it overtakes me, I desire a more abrupt end to those responsible." So
Talking
he's
about
he's
Brachion.
obviously, yeah, he's obviously talking about Brachion, or as you put it himself.
Hmm.
So um he gives you a sniper basically, and he's like, "Hey man, go get this vengeance for me because obviously I'm stuck being turned into a Vex and can't really do much about it." um Silicon Neuroma. Silicon, so if you break it down, silicon is an abundantly natural occurring chemical element. It's used in making everything from engine blocks to electronics and semiconductor microchips. And so I put that in there because specifically silicon is one of those materials that's used in just about everything. It's crazy hard. It's super strong. It can withstand tons of heat. I mean, it's like really close to a diamond, as far as like material makeup and strength and longevity and stuff. And so, no wonder they would use it for microchips or microprocessors or computer. And I mean, there's this insane amount of information out there about how silicon is just like the building blocks for the entire electronics industry, which is crazy. And electrical stuff, boards, whatever. Um,
Hmm.
so how does that relate? Well, obviously Vex, right? Because they're kind of this digitized. Who knows what they're made of? Uh,
Mm.
so silicon is that material, but neuroma is a growth or a tumor of nerve tissue. Uh, Nerve tumors result from trauma at the location of injury. So a neuroma is a neuroma is like a cancerous cell that goes crazy at a nerve ending that was severed or traumatized in any kind of just way, right? So you can imagine Asher's arm being ripped off by Vex. That's a lot of trauma to
Yeah.
his arm and those nerve endings. And so what happened is they're trying to correlate the two. That when that happened, a cancerous silicon took over and is now transforming Vex.
Hmm.
Uh, Within his body. So like he's being, taken over by the Vex. Because in the lore, his arm was ripped off. And in the game, he talks about my arm,
Hmm.
But yeah, so neuroma, there's a ton of medical information on that as well. I'm not going to get into it because it's an insane amount,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, of
it's like a
course.
legitimate thing. Like your brain and your body recognizes a traumatic thing that happens, and sometimes it's too much for your DNA to contain, and so like these cancerous cells start to develop, um, where it creates a neuroma, and so like the tumors will just start to like flourish because your body's trying to repair itself, but it doesn't know how because it's just
Hmm.
like it's an overcorrection that your body is trying to create for the traumatic event that happened. So it's amazing that our DNA has that capability to recognize things, but at the same time, it can be cataclysmic.
Hmm. And
So
because
yeah,
of everything that Asher went through, he's one of the few guardian. Oh, I guess he's the only guardian that we know hasn't died since that event, which that event happened just before the Red War. So 3 years? He lived for 3 years without dying. As a guardian, that's kind of impressive. As a normal human, that's not that impressive.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, I wonder if that has something to do with him being a Jensen, because they had a lot of,
So like
if you read,
I don't know. Like, I know he's called the Jensen scribe. I don't know if he's actually a Jensen scribe anymore, though, because that's a reef term, and the reef doesn't accept guardians. So, like, unless he's
that's
like a special exception, he
that's true.
used to be a Jensen scribe.
So it's kind of, yeah, that's a mystery for me. It's always been kind of like a hole in the lore. So
But yeah.
if he's a Jensen scribe, and you attribute the
Oh,
Jensens being able to study all of that stuff, maybe he had some good knowledge that would help him stay alive that long. I mean, what happened to Kabir?
so actually, we know because that was way long ago. Back in Season of the Undying, we were talking about the lore book aspect, and there's the entry. I will never remember the entry name, and it has uh text that sounds like it's talking about. Oh my god, I haven't talked about this guy in so long. The warlock who leapt off the shores of time,
Oh,
found himself
Pujari.
in. Sorry, Pujari.
Pujari.
Yes.
Yeah,
So it sounded like they were talking about Pujari, and then later it sounded like it was talking about Kabar or Kabir, which is weird because like it was like from the perspective of a singular person, and
uh,
so it started out with like K with a caret, K with a caret, K with a caret, K with a caret, V with a caret. And then it ended with K with a caret, K with a caret, V with a caret, V, like more V's than K's. And so we like asked the question about that on the show. Like, does that imply Kabir is being converted into a Vex? Does that imply Asher is actually converting into a Vex? Not just the arm, but that it's spreading throughout his body as well.
oh, that's neat.
And the author of that book, uh Ariella, I believe her name was, actually tweeted it saying that she was listening to the show and she was like, it's crazy hearing a show talk about something you've written, because I guess that was a new experience for her, and it's one of my favorite books, so I hope she comes back to write more. uh and she said that she very purposefully did that syntax with the letters.
Awesome.
So it's not confirming that Kabr is converting into a Vex, but it's
But
saying
close enough.
it is something. It's not nothing. And
Yeah.
so far, I've only ever heard that proposal of it's insinuating Kabir's conversion.
Well, I like it. I like it. Because one of the things he says is, like if I speak again, it's not me, right?
Yeah,
Like,
he says that like he knew he wouldn't be him. And remember those
yeah,
old theories that Kabir turned into Atheon? I never bought into those, and I still don't buy into those because why would
yeah.
he be going into the vault if not to fight Atheon? But I
He
do
knows.
believe he became something.
Yeah,
Maybe
definitely.
even the Templar. That'd be cool.
Well, he became the shield, technically, I guess.
No, he fashioned his light into the shield.
Yeah.
He did not become the shield. That's the other thing that people like to say, that he became the shield,
Um,
but it's just his light became the shield.
that's interesting. Yeah,
Kind
because
of like sorry,
if
go
you
on.
think about the light being something that we manipulate, but it's never not. It's you're right. It's never technically who we are as a guardian or anyone is. Any guardian or any light bearer that uses the light, it doesn't mean that they are the light, right?
Mhm.
It's just something that is there for them to manipulate and use um, throughout the experience of destiny and stuff like that. So, yeah. So, back to that age old question: how much of you is actually you? So if Kabir is turned into a Vex, then his light has been separated from him. But that was because he put it into the shield, technically.
Sorry, I was just trying to find the actual tweet so I could read it verbatim. What did you ask?
No, no, no. I was just saying if he if he separates his light, puts it in the shield, then Kabir is now a part of the Vex.
Yeah, so that would be the case. I'd imagine in theory.
Yeah, I guess you have to. I guess you have to take the two separately
Like
because the light is not.
we know God, what the hell is his name? Omar. When he was being tortured by the hive, they were able to rip his light out, and his
Boom.
light was still himself. So Kabir becoming the shield, I guess technically Kabir is the shield, but there's still Kabir the guardian.
Yeah.
Why, whether or not he has any light left, like maybe that's actually something that I never really considered before. Can a guardian be
See,
stripped of their light and still survive, but not use their light anymore? Like Eris. Eris is the proof of that, right?
I guess, but is she? I mean, she's got to have something left.
I don't think she does.
This is why we have a show because we figure this stuff out now. No, so yeah, what was her name? Ariana. What did they describe her being torn apart? Her light was being stripped from her body. How did they describe it?
Well, that was Omar. Omar had his light stripped from his body.
Oh, that's right. Uh, yes. So if you think about that as being like torn apart or shredded, well, there's pieces of you everywhere then, because you can't completely annihilate or have the piece of who you are in that one specific area versus somewhere else because
Hmm.
you've been shredded, right? I mean, our Ghost even talks about it, or the lore even talks about how Ghost finding, guardians, and how there was an exceptional piece of light left within or spark, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. A spark was there. I was able to bring back the guardian because he was an exceptional person or whatever. Those touched by the light can only be brought back because of that remaining spark or piece.
Okay, I found it.
However it happens.
I found it. I found it. I do want to let the book stand on its own and let people speculate because that's where the fun is. But the last line of Gnomic was the much intentional. Make of that what you will. So she said V, the letter V, not very, like V much
Yeah.
intentional.
Yeah. So we think Vex with the V.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's kind of like pushing
Yeah.
the theory that it was Vex conversion.
Which is great. This idea of convergence is really cool because
Okay,
everything,
we
everything the Vex
really got off
touch.
topic there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was good
Sorry.
off topic. I enjoy that, but we've been talking for 40 minutes and we haven't started the lore book at all. Maybe we should get into Empress.
Well, good thing it's a short lore book.
Yeah, it is. It is a short one. It's very to the point. The details are right there. It's not like, and not that it's
Uh-uh.
bad when there's like a lot of words detailing everything that's happening, and then there's like the nuggets inside. This is just very to the point. So we can
Yeah.
probably get through this
All right, let's rip
pretty
it.
quickly. Yeah. So we are talking about the lore book Empress. This is the book that comes takes place in a time just before Season of the Chosen. It ends with her basically arriving in Season of the Chosen, and it goes way back to before Cabal. Yeah, yeah. Before Callus was even evicted from his throne. So the first entry is chapter 1, Storyteller, where a very young Caiatl is being told a story of how a world already conquered by the Cabal Empire, believed the universe came to be. And she wishes to fight that god. So the god, the empire believed, to satisfy the first thought, which would become the first law, Urkin La consumes the chaos of the void and gives birth to the ordered universe. And do you think that's the? And I don't know which way it would go. Do you think that's the winnower or the gardener?
Yeah, I think it's one of them, definitely.
Right? Like when I first read that, I was like, oh my god, is that the winnower? And then it was saying consumes chaos in of the void and gives birth to the ordered universe.
Yeah.
So the gardener wants chaos. The
Yep.
winnower consumes the gardener
Yep.
to create order, right?
Yep.
So
So
yeah.
that's funny you bring that up because that's a perspective, right? So when you're talking like a darkness versus a light entity, they always have a perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so anyway, the perspective from the dark's vantage point is that chaos is a natural order of the universe, and it should be allowed to exist, and that annihilation is a part of chaos because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
chaos can't happen, blah blah blah, and to try to order and create organization and formality is not natural, and that is a light entity
I think you got that
belief.
reversed.
Yeah, what am I saying?
The
I'm saying
light.
from the vantage from the dark's perspective, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, is that the light is trying to undo what they're saying is from their perspective is a beautiful natural event,
Hmm.
chaos. And then from the light, and then so the light to the darkness is tearing apart what is destroying what they're trying to create, which is
Yeah.
chaos.
Yeah, like the light is saying, I'm creating life, and the darkness is saying, you're creating chaos. I'm
Yeah.
creating order, you're creating chaos, and the light is saying, I'm creating life, you're creating death.
Yes, there you go. Yeah.
But so Caiatl is told the Empire already defeated the Tiarn, which were the people that believed in Urkin La. And so Caiatl says that she'll believe in Urkin La so that one day she can go fight Urkin La, which is
Yeah.
adorable in like a warmongery way.
Yeah. It's a cute thing for a kid to say, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I
It's
want to
like,
be the
oh, you
greatest.
wanna you wanna
Yeah.
destroy entire planets of civilizations.
Yeah. Oh my
That's
God. Foreshadow.
horrible.
Yeah.
So
Well, she
this
looks
was
up to him. She looks
yeah.
up to yeah.
This was a young Keitel who was still Callus was still under the rule. And then the next one it jumps up to when she's older, and I'm not sure if it's before or after the coup. what do you think? So, chapter 2 star pilot, Caiatl is running a simulation against what appears to be the Hive. They're on a world that isn't Tora Bottle, that has been destroyed by whatever alien race appears to be the Hive. And I'm just gonna say, a wizard appears and shoots Caiatl out of the sky, ending the simulation where she would have died. Do you think this is before or after the Midnight Coup?
Thought it was after, but
Yeah, it
I
seems
think
to be lacking.
the reason why I thought it was after in the lore was because of how Callus was obsessed by the darkness, and so part of the reason why he's not like
So you
good.
think he wouldn't? You think if he had witnessed the Hive, he would have been like, "I'm going to stay
Yeah,
away from the darkness."
or no, or something else would have happened. Maybe he would have
Hmm.
been more obsessed with it, or just
Mm.
stayed there, or been consumed by it, or whatever. But yeah, I could like in the lore, I couldn't see him seeing that and then being like, "All right, I'm a bounce."
Well, I mean, he didn't choose to bounce; he
I
got
mean,
told
like,
to bounce.
yeah, but I mean, he's gonna like jump on this opportunity because,
Yeah.
yeah, as we know, Callus is driven by just anyway.
So, in this entry, on the planet, imagine all of Tora Bottle. They're on the planet and they're describing it. Imagine all of Tora Bottle as putrid grave swamps of ark, centuries sunk in muck, a testament to someone else's conquest. And so, like, the first place, at least as far as I'm aware, the first place the Hive touched down on Earth are the Rusted Lands, which is kind of like not swampy, but it's clearly like mucky. You know, it's not like clean,
Yeah,
dry land. And then wherever they are in the Cosmodrome is kind of the same. You know, it's not like the dry, snowy locations anymore. It's like getting more like swampish.
yeah,
And then we have Old
barnacle.
Chicago coming up, supposedly in Witch Queen. We have Old Chicago coming up, and Old Chicago was absolutely a swamp area. Like it was a swamp zone location.
Yeah.
And do you think this is like a thing that the Hive leave behind? Like wherever they go, it's like kind of
Well,
swamps, sunken muck.
yes, maybe. Well, because maybe it's just like if they didn't. Okay, so like Turbattle, if they weren't a part of the reason why it's a swamp in the first place, then it's probably like, oh, look, that's a good place to build a home.
Hmm.
Like it's comfortable for them,
Yeah, like
however that
they're
is
just naturally
drawn to.
drawn
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
swampy
It's like, oh,
areas.
where am I going to lay in the living room? Oh, well, obviously the sofa with the comfy pillow. Yeah,
Yeah, I gotcha. Also in this entry, Umunarath, this is like before Umun like really shifted her
yeah,
personality. She says, "There are monsters at the edges of our territory that would tear open our world and turn it inside out. They fear nothing." And so that "they fear nothing" is kind of like a foreshadow to later on in this book in the entry New Gods, I believe. Perhaps Battle Song. No, New Gods. New Gods. Maybe Soldiers.
they fear
Wherever.
nothing.
We'll get to it.
Okay, so cute little Caiatl
Yeah.
is just did her. This is flash forward. She just did her battle simulation,
Hmm.
and
And she's getting a little more realistic in her fighting. She's not all hopped up on fairy tales of
yeah,
like
which what? How do you pronounce it? Uman.
Amunarath.
Yeah.
That's how I
Told
pronounce it.
her told her all about this. So at a very, 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 very early age, Kaido was told all these fantastical stories.
Hmm. Yeah, by
Of,
uh
yeah.
Aj Aj
I can't pronounce it. I was
Atsja.
trying to figure it out. Asja?
Atsja.
Asja.
Atsja. Who apparently has all of the Empire's stories inside her head,
Hmm.
which is just like the grand storyteller, Atsja,
Yeah.
you know.
Where's
I'm
she getting
sure
these
they're
stories
not
from?
elaborated at all. We do
Yeah.
not have any evidence of scions spicing up the story for Callus's liking. That's never happened.
Yeah. Cade 7
Yeah,
agrees.
totally. Toland forced into a body again just so he could be killed again.
Yeah, what in the world? That's hilarious.
They really went off the
Those are
rails with that one.
really good stories. Those are really good stories.
They should have made Drifter eat himself. That would have been good.
But the fact that he had to eat his ghost,
Did
or was
he?
that
Oh
him?
man, I forgot that.
Yeah, he
Oh
ate his
yeah.
ghost, and
But
so
it
that
would have been funny if he's like, "This is good. What is it?" And it's like, "It's your legs. We cut them off, and you didn't even notice."
oh, that's great. Yeah, that's a good story in the lore. He's eating his ghost, and it's like blood and metal in his mouth, and he
Hmm.
can't stop because
Yeah,
he's so hungry.
yeah.
Anyway,
So then we go on to chapter 3, which is Assassin. So this is absolutely after the Midnight Coup, because Caiatl felt the assassin's eyes on her back before she heard their words. Your father sends his regards. They croaked. So
yeah,
you can't help but put in fucking Game of Thrones references
uh,
anymore, right? Like that, it just has
yeah.
to happen.
Well, that's like a saying that goes way back to like 30s gangster movies.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's got like
Yeah,
real world references, but like you can't
sorry.
read that without being like, yeah, the Lannisters send their regards. Like
Yeah,
that's what it's doing. Like don't
yeah,
try to like pretend you're not.
yeah,
But yeah, an assassin of an unknown race, they're one of Callus's shadows, tried to kill Caiatl with a void weapon. They shot her, I believe, in her shoulder, and then they also shot through her hand. So the Cabal have like really good regenerative, medical, whatever the case may be, because her hands are fine, but she got blasted through her hand.
yeah.
So like that's kind of a big deal in my opinion, and that just kind of made me think back to like all the times that the Cabal were called morphs,
Yep.
where it's almost like, can they like, I don't
Well,
even know how to describe it.
we know they can make themselves out of that black goo on Callus's ship. The pools. What were
They
the
make
pools?
themselves in the pools, the royal pools.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought they
That's where
like
they.
I thought they were born in the royal pools or something like that.
Yeah, I guess that's the same thing, right?
Yeah, 'cause that's where they were
So,
modified. That's where
well, they.
Galron was genetically modified.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's where
Okay,
Daron even happened too. But like
yeah,
all
that's a
the. So okay, sorry. Sidebar. You know
yeah.
when the ghost tells us on one of the missions that we have, it's like it's not a patrol mission. It's like a side. It's like a short mission,
Hmm.
and he describes the black goo.
Yeah, their
The,
pressure gel.
yeah, the pressure jet. Well,
Yeah.
the oil, and he goes on to say that they use the oil, the black oil, for everything. It can carry. It carries digital information for everything you need. Blah blah blah. They can
Hmm.
use it as a fuel. They can use it as whatever. And so, like, if you think about them being a morph and whatever that means, and just your own definition of morph, and then you think about the black goo being tied to their morph, it's kind of
Hmm.
like, yeah, like what you said, they can regenerate themselves, or this is how they create themselves. And you think about how Gaul used it on the ship.
Mm. So just to kind of jump ahead a little bit, in a later entry, pinned into the wreckage of a crashed single pilot fighter, Caiatl caught her breath as gel leaked from her suit. And so it was always the assumption that, and actually it was like explicitly told to us that the Cabal needed this pressure gel because our atmosphere wasn't as thick or something like that, something along those lines, where they needed to simulate the pressure on their bodies as they had on their homeworld. But here on her homeworld, she's still got the pressure gel suits and it's
Huh.
leaking from her suit. So it's kind of like,
Interesting.
and then you think about Callus and what we learned about him from the Glycon, where he was like the fucking Dalek in the suit, like not a solid creature anymore.
Yeah, he was just oozy
Yeah.
stuff.
And the fact that his automatons are made from his excess flesh, he had
Yeah.
like 100 of those.
And they were basically, yeah, because like his flesh is not really who he is. He's the ooze.
Like, what the hell are, like, I know everyone's like, what the hell are the Vex, but what the hell are the Cabal? Like,
Yeah, I've
what is
always had this
happening?
question. I know everybody, what the Vex? Me, what the Cabal?
Yeah. Because I mean, when you think about it, like when you see a bigger hive, it's like, yeah, sure. You know, why
Yeah,
not? Why not a
yeah,
bigger hive? And when you see a bigger fallen, you understand it's like, okay, yeah, they have more ether makes them
yeah,
more bigger. And then when you see a bigger Vex, it's like very simply, yeah, it's a fucking robot. It can be as big as
yeah.
it
They just
wants.
built
But the
yeah,
Cabal come in all damn shapes and sizes, and it makes no sense.
I know that when you get a headshot on them,
The
that
gel
like
out.
yeah,
Yeah.
so cool. It's a cool death, and then they like kind of just fall.
Yeah. 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 Back in D1 trying to you get a headshot on them and their head stays there, but their helmet pops off and you got to see their
Yeah,
ugly fucking faces for the first time.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah,
was a fun experience for everyone the first time someone successfully did that.
yeah. That was monstrous, right? I remember the um the really cool live action trailer for Destiny, and you're fighting the big piranha faced Cabal. Or remember, like the live action trailer has the Cabal,
Uh-huh.
and he's like yelling "Rah," or whatever in his
Yeah.
helmet. Yeah, that was pretty crazy. But even in there, they're massive. Like the scale
Hmm.
of the Cabal is just massive.
It's supposed to be
And
like
then
4 tons or
Being
something, right? Or maybe they're
yeah.
400 pounds.
Oh,
Either way.
maybe it is.
And they
What
couldn't
is
make up their mind if they were turtles or rhinos.
yeah.
What was
They
the
got all kinds
gun?
of nicknames.
There was a gun that had turtles with X's on it.
Yes, that's the armor. The
Oh, it
armor
was
has it.
armor. Yeah,
It was a seasonal armor from
probably like worthy or something.
yeah, yeah. And it was
Oh
so
no,
cool
not
because once you
worthy. I don't,
it was before the Chosen, that's for sure.
yeah, that's where I was going with.
It was when we first started realizing that the pyramids were on the way
Yeah,
or something.
yeah, that's why. Yeah, no, so it would have been worthy. I think it was worthy. Maybe I was right.
Yeah, you might have been
Either way.
you might have been yeah, the
Uh,
little space turtles are X'd out on the
yeah.
Titan armor, shoulder gauntlet plate, whatever
Hmm.
that's called.
Hmm.
And then later we just get armor that's flat out pieces of the Cabal.
Well, we've had that for a while, haven't we?
Yeah, but I mean, like the face of a what was it? A phalanx was on the shoulder
The
pads for the
Colossus,
Titan.
yeah, the
Yeah, the
Colossus
Colossus.
faceplate, and they had the War Beast blades coming
Yeah,
on their elbows and shit. And
I mean the Crow's wearing War Beast skin.
is he?
Yeah,
I
he's
thought it was
still,
like
or
some
he
like
did, or he
feathered
did.
armor, like
I
some
guess he
feather
did.
design. I mean, I'm sure he
Yeah,
doesn't give a shit about Cabal. You know, he was sitting there in the reef working with the Elixni, and there's Cabal and Hive, and he didn't want to wear Hive skin, so he wore Cabal skin. So
yeah,
can't really blame him.
makes sense.
But that will bring us to chapter 4, Soldiers. Caiatl hears about toxic fumes coming from Amunaraf's room and decides to go investigate. Amun has a hive thrall chained up to the wall and speaks about the future of the Empire's army, that the hive don't fear pain or death. This goes against Cabal teachings that Amun actually taught Caiatl. Caiatl tells her to step down from the council. And so her room has like a lot of hive imagery. Later that day, she found out the first of Amun's rooms, usually kept tidy with military precision, was changed. Her two war tables covered in papers and tomes, unrecognizable to Caiatl. The room stank of death and poison. Strange symbols were drawn on the ground in ash.
Yeah. So pause. You know that she's kind of descending into this world of madness, almost like
Yeah,
Tolan did. He's
yeah,
just
very well. Thankfully, not or actually unluckily not like Toland, because at least Toland was keeping himself. You know, he was like, yeah, I want to see what
yeah.
this is about, but not like betray humanity.
But he's a warlock, and they kind of had that whole thing anyway.
And then Umun actually has this to say uh, when Keitel says how like you're going against our own teachings. She says we must move beyond them. With each swing of the sword, the universe grows smaller, Keitel. The competition fiercer. If we don't learn a new way, we'll be cut down with the rest. We must accept new gods or we'll perish. So that's like sword logic right there. Like
Yeah, that's
she's gone.
definitely Hive. Yeah, that's definitely Hive logic. Because the Hive believe that by to grow stronger and to become, the big god form or whatever, they've
You're
got
kind
to
of
destroy.
getting quiet as you talk. Are you like stepping away from your mic or is it cutting out?
Yeah, I was leaning.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah. So all I was saying is that the Hive, the sword logic, the more you destroy, the bigger you become, the more godlike you become.
Yeah.
Kind of like the tithing system almost. Like kill your
Which
brothers and sisters, you get bigger.
yeah. Which is
Yada
kind of
yada.
like almost an immature idea where it's like if you can beat up this guy and that guy can beat up that guy, then you could beat up that guy.
Yeah.
You know, that's what sword logic basically is saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone that you kill, you are stronger than everyone that they killed, and so on. But not really, because they could have had the advantage when they killed that one person who would have had it's like fucking rock, paper,
Yeah, yeah,
scissors.
yeah. It's a
You're you,
flawed logic. It's a flawed logic. But okay, so that's very important that you brought that up because the flawed logic was introduced by the worms. And so this
mhm,
worm that's, constantly hungry inside the hive needs to be fed in order
yeah.
for it to be fed. So Oryx and his siblings were trying to get away from that,
hmm
right?
Well,
And so like they're
Oryx was deep in it, and I think Zivu's deep in it too. It's Savathun who was questioning it.
Savathun, yeah, and so Savathun's way out was trickery, right?
hmm
To keep from,
I don't think she's
because they
ever
could,
explicitly said that she wants out of the Worm Pact. She has questioned it as a mistake, but never said, I don't want my worm anymore. But
yeah,
everyone thinks that's what she wants.
that's a good point. So that's a good thing to say right then,
Yeah.
because now you have an idea of what they're going through. Because if a moon is realizing this
hmm
for the first time, to her it's brand new and it's great, and it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, this is the
She
only way
didn't see
out.
the other side yet.
Yeah, she doesn't have the thousands of years or whatever it was
Yeah.
of the hive hunger.
Yeah. Where like Savathun is like really destroying things and tricking things and all this stuff and constantly feeding her worm. And there are entries this season where it's talking about how the worm's like not good enough. Like
Yeah, what?
she sees that her time is coming. She sees the end of the road here. It it you are never going to be good enough for the worms. Eventually, the worms will kill you because eventually there will be nothing left. There will be nothing left for you to kill, and the
Yeah.
worms will kill you.
So the only way out for the three
Yeah.
the only way out for those three, it has always been to find something else. And so their conquest over the universe and,
hmm
galaxies and other entities and whatever has always been this search for something else. Like feeding the worm is the underlying problem that they have to
Yeah.
deal with constantly. But getting away from that, they've got to be super creative. I mean, Oryx learned how to take, for crying out loud, and the taking that's an amazing event. If you think about it, like to
Yeah.
be,
But even then, Oryx can take the universe, but eventually the universe is taken.
and then what? Right?
He feeds his worms on the universe, and eventually the universe isn't enough, and the worms are all that's left. They
Mhm.
really played the long con against the hive.
Yep, they sure did. You're right.
They did that get rich quick scheme I read about when I was 10, where you ask your parents to change your allowance from the usual. I got paid like $20 because that was actually my lunch money, and that's how
Yep.
much lunch cost when I was a kid, which is ridiculous, but whatever. And you ask your parents to change your allowance instead of $20 to 1 penny. But next week, it needs to double to 2 pennies. And then the week after, it needs to double to
Yeah.
4 pennies. And the weekend, and it's like after after so many weeks, you'll be like, haha, you owe me $1 million, mother. And it's like, it's not going to work. You're not getting the money,
Yeah,
but
duh. The
the
money
worms
was
figured
never
it out.
there
Yeah.
to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The worms are going to
you're
get
right.
them though.
That's funny. Pyramid schemes.
Yeah. Speaking of, speaking of pyramids, I wonder if Bungie thought of that when they were like, let's make them pyramids.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that brings us to chapter 5. Amun, it sounds like she was taken into custody at some point between chapter 4 and chapter 5.
Uh-huh.
Uh, in the central square of Torobattle's weapon district, a bright green flame lit the air. Amuna Wrath stood against the blaze, naked but for a wrist wrap, in the custody of 2 guards. Her hide was carved with strange, crude symbols. When she saw Caiatl arrive, she threw her head back and laughed. Here comes the princess Imperial, she said, to kneel before our new god. And then in that bracket syntax that Savathun does, I am Savathun, whispering. Uh, so basically it goes on to say, Caiatl saying, what are you doing? And Amun saying, I'm summoning the god of war. And then bracket syntax, but the god of war has planted her armies elsewhere. It is her sister, smiling, that has taken the air of the war child Umunarath. Caiatl stood before Amun in the flickering green light of the fire. Your obsession is weakness, she said, and the threat of our prosperity. You can't stop it now. Amun lifted breathless with delight. Zivu, and then Savathun in her syntax. Zivu Wrath, hear me. Caiatl didn't break her stare. I have no choice but to. Amun, chuckling, raised her hands. They glowed. The fire behind her burned higher, and chattered like rattling bones. The war is all there is, she said. As the chattering reached a fever pitch, Caiatl made a decision. With the lightning-quick reflexes Amun had taught her, she unsheathed the ceremonial sword at her side and ran it through Amun's middle. Amun laughed. And then Savathun, you are war, and I conjure you with war and blood. She laughed and laughed and laughed until her mouth began to ooze, until Caiatl, disgusted, pushed her off her sword with her foot. The body tumbled backward onto the green blaze, a gift from my favorite sister. As the fire had consumed the corpse, a gargantuan portal opened into the sky. So basically what happened here, and I felt like it was important to read this whole entry because this was like really where the details are.
Right. This is
Um
very important.
yeah. Amun, it has been the Cabal have been fighting the Hive. Amun has decided for some reason to worship Zivu Arath, who, according to Savathun, has nothing to do with the war with the Hive, which basically says the Cabal were fighting Savathun's Hive the entire time. And then Savathun tricks Amun Arath into summoning Zivu Arath, and Savathun just like, nudged it along, saying, Zivu Arath, hear me. And then you are war, and I conjure you with war and blood, when Caiatl stabbed Amun. And so you are war, and I conjure you with war and blood is a huge throwback all the way back to the Books of Sara, where Oryx became Oryx after killing his sisters in his throne world, and they were true
Mhm.
deaths, and everyone likes to think that true deaths can be negated by summoning them, because that's what Oryx did later on, summoning Savathun with trickery and summoning Zivu Arath with war.
Yes.
And they use that as evidence that Oryx can come back, and that is not true. Zivu Arath is written saying that when Oryx killed her in his throne world, she was sent back to her throne world, which is the standard rules for the Hive Worm Pact. And Oryx summoned Zivu Arath out of her throne world to where he was by creating war, just as Savathun summoned Zivu Arath out of wherever she was to Torobatl with war and blood.
Yep. And so that stabbing of Amun with the
Mm-hmm.
sword and then throwing her down onto the whatever it was, the plate of
The
whatever
green
they call
fire.
that. Yeah, yeah, the summoning thing circle. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that in that instance, it was like, haha, I got you. You're tricked. You
Yep.
killed her. So now that gives me the opportunity to flood your world with my war and
Hmm.
everything, because that's the way the hive get here.
Yep. And that's exactly what way back in the Dark Below. So in the Dark Below, if you're a veteran, you've played, you have to go fight like two of Crota's hands,
Yeah.
his eyes, his
Uh,
heart, his will, Omnigul, the will of Crota. You had to fight
yeah.
all these pieces of Crota that were basically just going around the Cosmodrome and the moon, terrorizing shit. So Crota is the Eater of Hope. So to summon Crota from his throne world, they had to destroy Hope. To summon Savathun, you had to be tricky. To summon Xivu, you had to perform war. To summon Oryx, you would have to navigate, I guess, which is kind of
Yeah.
a, a difficult one, I would imagine. But
Yeah.
the premise is there. You know, they have their summoning rituals, and that is how the summoning ritual is done.
Yeah. So boom. So that opens the floodgate onto our battle, and now the
Mm-hmm.
hive are going to destroy it.
Yep. So Caiatl witnesses, and this is chapter 6 battle song. Caiatl witnesses the arrival of Xivu, the war god with the hive. The war with the hive destroy Torabottle, or are going to destroy Torabottle, and she knows it's her fault. So like Xivu just like rips out of the fucking sky and it starts messing shit up. And so she has Xivu has her own syntax where it's like all capital, and she says, "My home is war. My voice is a battle song. For as long as you have worshipped war, you have worshipped me. I am here to claim my tribute. It is overdue." Because obviously the
Uh-huh.
Cabal are
Yeah.
warmongers. They've been inadvertently worshiping Xivu Arath, which is crazy because it's like you need to believe in Xivu Arath for her to
To
benefit
know that,
from.
yeah. So crazy. And then like so all of the Cabal stuff that's happened in the past, like the fact that they blew up planets just for being in their way,
Yeah,
like all the stuff you heard about, and
all of
they're
that
huge.
secretly
Yeah.
benefiting Xivu. She's
Yeah.
probably inadvertently the smartest of the three princes, because
Hmm.
my throne world is the battlefield, she said once. It's just like she's
Yeah.
always profiting. Savathun, yeah,
Yeah.
trickery, cool, good for you. Oryx, navigation, cool. The universe is ever expanding. I guess you'll never run out of navigation, but it's a lot of dead space, and I don't think that counts. But Ziva really
It kind of
has
mirrors it
the
kind of
long game.
mirrors the future war cult in a way too, with their war is inevitable type
Yeah,
of logic. It's
yeah,
just like there is nothing else but the war.
yeah. So
It just
eventually,
shows you. Yeah,
eventually
yeah.
Ziva would have came to the city and been like, "Yeah, I'm here for the war cult. They brought me here. What's
Let's
up?"
go.
I
Right? I mean,
wonder.
Lakshmi died just now, and it just kind of happened, right?
I wonder if that was actually Savathun's plan. I wonder
You
if it
never
got
know.
messed up. I wonder if it got messed up and they brought the Vex instead of Zivu. That'd be cool.
Oh, that would be cool.
Like if Lakshmi was meant to kill uh uh Mithrax, and in killing Mithrax, summon Zivur Wrath to Earth and just decimate
Oh my
everything.
goodness.
So like she's on plan B now, like because when you kill when you kill Quoria, she's Osiris rather, because we're assuming Osiris is being controlled by, or is secretly. Osiris was kind of like, oh, you killed them. Like, not like excited. He was like surprised
Yeah.
and a little defeated. So I wonder if the death of Quoria kind of like allowed us to sidestep Zivu entering the city and instead had Vex.
Hmm. Interesting thought.
Hmm. Either way.
Yeah.
So
Good
that's going to
stuff.
bring us to chapter 7, Coronation. Caiatl sits with her counselors. They look to her to lead, and as her first decision as Empress, she informs everyone that they will flee Torabottle. They go to Seoul to reclaim any that survived Gaul's foolish crusade, regroup, and then fight the Hive. In Chosen, and later on in the century, we also learn that her plan is actually to team up with the Guardians, not just come in there and start a fight.
Yeah. Yeah, that set up the whole chosen
Yeah.
campaign. So she's here to take all of the remaining Cabal, and she wants us to join in her pursuit to take back
Yeah. So
what she believes is.
so that is like just before uh Chosen began, or actually it's probably a little bit before. I'd imagine Torah Bottle's kind of far away. And then chapter 8, Empress, Caiatl sends a message to the Cabal and the Soul, End Soul, announcing her rise to Empress and her arrival. She also frees Scions and grants them full citizenship. And so this is like just before Season of the Chosen starts, because I'm pretty sure we intercepted a Cabal message in Hunt, didn't we? Am I
Mm.
confusing that with something else?
Did we get a Cabal message? I know that no, I don't know.
I'm almost positive we intercepted. No matter what, though, this is happening like just before Hunt. But the interesting bit here is that she freed the Scions, which is something that Callus wanted to do before he was kicked out of the Empire, and everyone was like,
Yeah,
"Oh, don't you dare free the Scions! How dare you?
free the Scions. Yeah.
They have to be
The
slaves."
Scions. Oh man, the Scions. Just too much power.
Yeah,
Too
that's the
much
other thing
power.
about the Scions.
I can understand. I can understand like why they would be so hesitant
Hmm.
to let them just go free. I mean,
Because like
obviously,
that's the thing, right? It's like you have you almost paint this picture that Bungie has painted this picture that the Scions are slaves, they're under the boot of the Cabal, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's like you're free now, and they're still like, and we're gonna hang out. Like what?
yeah,
They were never
yeah.
slaves to
Why?
begin with. That was the position they wanted to be in. They were like unseen because of the position they held. They were privy to secrets they should not be privy to because they were slaves. But that's a whole nother thing. And I think we've actually talked about the
Yeah,
Scions before, so we
we
don't need
have
to
a
get
little
back into
bit.
that.
I mean, my God.
But yeah, it is because actually it was Anzat the Freeborn. So in and just to cover it really quickly, I think it was actually in Chosen that we learned we had more clues about how the Scions work for the Scions. They don't work for the Cabal. If it benefits the Cabal,
Yeah,
sure, why not? But only if it benefits the Scions will they do what's needed. And so
yeah,
you had Atzat the Freeborn, who was a free scion under Callus's rule. And then when Callus is like, we're going to free all the scions, Atzat's like, no, 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 no. So obviously the scions didn't want to be freed if they all, assuming Atzat didn't betray their own race, if the scions didn't want to be freed, they wanted to be in that position still because
yeah.
Atzat is working with the entire race of scion.
I mean, it's really crazy because like they're all the way in D1 with the flares, right? And
Yeah.
we had the reintroduction of the new scions, which were the flares
Yeah, we had more
when
flares
D2
basically.
yeah, yeah. And then they were somehow attributed to the Osiris construct. What was it called? The
The Oxa.
uh, no, the big machine. Yeah, but they had the Otza too. But the big machine that helped him navigate time, whatever space. What was the big thing that we all had to fight
The
on?
sundial.
The sundial. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, no, sorry, I got that mixed up there.
Yeah. So if the scions are there and the scions are way back there,
Yeah,
the potential for the scions is insane.
yeah, and that was the other thing with the whole sundial story. Like it was, they were like saying like, yeah, we're gonna make it so the Red War wins and Gaul wins, the
Yeah,
Cabal
what?
win, and then they were like, we're actually gonna make it so we win, and it's like, oh shit, okay,
uh, yeah, that did happen.
yeah,
Goodness.
and oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying, oh my goodness.
Yeah. That brings us to the final entry of this book, chapter 9, Truce. So Caiatl plans to demand the Guardians to kneel before her to fight together with the Cabal against the Hive. She wishes she could just negotiate on equal terms, but that would be weakness. So she's got her advisor, Tarun, and gaze, Tarun's gaze turned thoughtful. No, wait, sorry, a little bit. Caiatl leaned forward and abruptly in the seat. Do we need to make war to regain the Legion? Once more, Tarun was silent. Eventually, she said carefully, "You don't believe we would win?" Caiatl saw the blade hidden in Tarun's question. We would win. After a long, grueling war, we'd sustained huge losses, and we'd leave ourselves open to further devastation at the war god's hands. Tarun's gaze turned thoughtful. Yes, probably. She studied Caiatl's face. So what do you suggest? We negotiate. Tarun observed her customary moment of silence. Some of the counselors won't like it. I know, Caiatl said. She stared past Tarun, her jaw set. I don't either. You'll have to make a gesture for them, a nod to our legacy as conquerors. If they see it as a true equal negotiation, Tarun trailed off. They'll call it weakness, Caiatl finished. Especially after fleeing Tora Bottle, Tarun nodded. So Caiatl's like really in this position where she just wants to come and be like, can we just work together, please? Can we not fight?
Yeah.
But she can't do that.
I need to save my people. Can you just help me, please? But not really.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think that she would have even done the whole ritual of passing? Choosing?
Yeah.
I forgot what the ritual of whatever. The rite of passing? The rite of choosing?
Something. Right?
The hammer games. So
I mean, they're proving grounds. That's what I know.
I don't think she would have done the hammer games if she didn't need to. She would have just
games.
Yeah. She would have just came up to Zavala and said, "Hey, I want to have an armistice. Any Cabal who denies this, they're your enemy, they're our enemy. We are going to work together against the Cabal or the Hive." And, that's what ended up happening. She got what she wanted, but she had to sacrifice a few of her Cabal to get that.
Yeah, expendable, right?
Yeah.
They're just expendable. Oh, man. That's a long, hard road.
Yeah. And that is the end of that book. That was a good one.
Yeah.
I'm really excited. So our next episode is actually going to be the Sunday after the 29th, the Sunday after the new season, the Sunday after the Witch Queen showcase event, which is like, we're going to have too much to talk about on the 29th. I don't know which we'll do first. Oh, actually, you know what? It's probably smarter if we talked about the showcase, because that's just going to be like a one and done thing. Whereas the season, it's going to develop for a few weeks before it really slows.
Yeah, and there'll be like spoilery topics that we wouldn't be able to touch anyway. So
yeah, that's true.
We can kind of just go over like what's the happening.
Yeah. So hopefully next week we will be talking, or I mean, not hopefully, it's happening. So next week we'll be talking about the showcase. We'll get some thoughts on that, and maybe there will be some more secrets about those music boxes unlocked by that time. That'd be cool.
Maybe yours will play My Sharona.
Oh my god, that'd be cool. That would I was thinking about that. I was like, maybe I was like, how much effort do I want to put into this joke? But I was like, what if I had it play that Rick Astley song?
Yeah, Rick Roll.
Yeah, like I start cranking it up. It's like dum dum, and I'm like, what the fuck?
Never gonna give you up.
Start it up again, kick on the music again, like just be like disturbed by it and stop playing, and then just keep going back to it, and the music picks up. I'm too lazy to do anything like that, though. I'm just gonna be like, look what I got, playing because it's got to be the theme music for Witch Queen, right? Like,
right.
The three people I've seen so far receive theirs that have videos of it up, it plays the same music. So I don't think it's
just it's super awesome.
I don't mean I don't mean to make it sound like this is like a stupid thing that they did. I'm like, it's amazing what they did, especially with the thematic reasonings behind Savathun and music is, like
Right.
basically saying everyone who receives a music box, everyone who listens to the music box is now being infected by Savathun. That's awesome. I love that. Like thematic lore. Uh but I do just like very like taking a realist stance. There's not like a hidden message that you need a music master's degree to like piece out after playing them all together. Like there's like 20 of them out there and you need to sync them up perfectly, and it's going to say like drink your Ovaltine or some shit, you know? Like
Yeah. Well, even if it was like Savathun trying to take over you in reality, you've already been infected by the Ahamkara, so
yeah, that's true. I got that one right there.
you're already screwed.
Yeah, I've been screwed for a long time. Oh well.
Ugh.
I
It'll be
accept
really
our
great
I
though.
accept our Wish Dragon overlords, you know? It's fine.
Yeah. Same here. Because I mean, it's technically just you, right?
Are you calling me an
It,
Ahamkara?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. At this point,
Man, that'd be cool. Granting wishes.
yeah. I mean,
Uh
I hear people on Twitter all the time wishing for stuff in Destiny.
yeah. I'm not reading it. So if I am an Ahamkara, it ain't happening.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, that's gonna
Make
be
it
our show for
so.
this week. We will be back on the what did I just say? The 29th? We will be back on the 29th talking about that Witch Queen showcase. We hope everyone's very excited for it. Oh, you asked me why they were hiring so many people. Remember that? We
Yeah.
were talking
Yeah.
DMs.
Yeah.
On the music box, and this threw me for a loop. On the music box, it says Seattle time and it says Amsterdam time, and I was like, "What is this range? Like, why
Wow.
Amsterdam?" I forgot they're opening a second studio in Amsterdam.
That's right.
And I don't think the people they're hiring are being expected to kick it over to fucking Amsterdam, but like they are expanding a
Yeah.
bunch. So good for Bungie.
A huge amount, I guess. So there's all kinds of support and people that they need to facilitate.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, the sheer logistics of shipping the game every year.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm very excited for the future of Destiny. Bungie's proven that they can tell the story. It's a matter of like the other things that are important to people, you know, with the
Yeah.
content specifically, the armor, the weapons, the this, that, you know, it's a lot to not just give new toys, but like to balance it, you know, like it's an
Yeah,
unending
absolutely.
job, and that's not even considering the technical side of keeping a live game going for,
And
well, I
you
mean,
know what?
effectively 8 years.
And you know what? We live in a world where there's like billions of people. So, if Destiny just occupies a small chunk of the billions of people, well, that's still millions of people than 100 years ago, right? That are
Hmm.
all invested in this one particular project. So, that being said, it has an audience that they can cater to, exist for, bring beautiful things to,
Hmm.
keep growing, the community that is involved. And so, even if that community still stays as whole as it is, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So, as long as they got that business of where they can feed the community and the community feeds back to them, then
Hmm.
it can keep perpetuating itself. Boop, boop, boop.
Yeah. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed the show. If you came in late and you want to listen to it or you want to watch it, you can find all our information down there at Loose Canon Show on Twitter, spelled like it is down there. Because we've had someone look us up and they weren't able to find us because they spelled Canon Cannon. So our little joke kind of backfired on us that time.
Yeah.
And I always want to make sure that
We're
people know it's Canon because canon. It's a meme. So thank you
they'll
for
figure it
tuning
out.
in. Thank you for listening. Have a good rest of your 2 weeks. And I hope you all enjoy the showcase and the new season. We're going to be enjoying it too.
Yeah.
Ciao,
Bye.
everybody.